Today what we'd like to accomplish in this video is we want to begin looking at how we create and edit data and add that to our map. We've previously looked at how we could add data that's already been created, whether that came from an online resource or whether we just had a series of points in a table. What we'd like to look at doing today is actually just drawing on the map. To get started, I'm going to come to my map and set the projection. And today, let's go ahead and use a UTM projection, Universal Transverse Mercator. We're going to use NAD 83, and we'll go to Zone 12N. And I'm going to come and zoom into Utah. And come to Ephraim, okay, home of Snow College. So a couple terms for us. The first term I'd like to cover is what it means to digitize. When we digitize, we are creating a digital file of spatial data. And as we digitize, oftentimes we may be doing that by converting imagery or some sort of analog type data, you might say, to a digital form that can be brought up and used within our map. Now, as we look at imagery, or maybe converting from a raster form to a vector form, we will be working with vector type data as we digitize. Another term for us is georeference. We're not going to look at georeferencing today. That may be something you choose to learn how to do on your own time. But when you georeference, you can bring an image in that you have, so maybe an image file or even something you've scanned, and bring it into your map and spatially position it such that it's accurate with the map, and then digitize from that. Another term for you as you think about georeferencing is an ortho image. And ortho, meaning perpendicular to, would be an image that shows pretty much the bird's eye view from straight above at any point along the image. Even if we have an aerial camera looking straight down, that won't give us an ortho image because the only position that would be perpendicular to that camera's position would be directly below it. Well, anything to the north, south, east, or west would have some offset. Again, we won't look at creating ortho images. You are able to do that and add them to your map. We're going to use base maps that have already been created, and they are ortho images. Okay, and I'm going to change my base map to imagery, and let's get ready to digitize. So I'm looking at imagery. I'm in Ephraim, and if any of you are familiar with Ephraim, there's heading east of town, there's the Ephraim Canyon Road, recently paved, even though this image doesn't quite show that. But here we have the Ephraim Canyon Road, and then splitting off is this little road that heads up a canyon called New Canyon. And what we'd like to do today is we're going to digitize that road so that we have a vector data set that shows where the position of that road. All right, let's see how we get started. First, I'm going to come down and click on Catalog and come to my folders. And within my project folder, I've created a few additional folders, including exports, external data, workspace. And then with the creation of the project, we have this geodatabase. As you digitize, you may choose to put your digital file in one of two formats or areas. Okay. The first would be to create a feature class that belongs within a geodatabase, and the second option would be to create a shapefile that belongs within a folder. Let's go ahead and work through creating both. Now, they're kind of tricky because they're so similar and yet they're different. I think we've mentioned before how shapefiles are less popular now than they used to be. Part of their limitation is their lack of ability to hold topology, which is relationships between other data sets. However, they've been used a lot in the past, and they still are out there, and so I think it's good for us to look at shapefiles. Feature classes do hold topology, and however, they only belong within a geodatabase. Both can be lines, points, or polygons. Okay, so with that being said, let's see if we can make sense of this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into external data and create. I'm going to go new. So I right-clicked. Let me do that one more time. I right-clicked on external data, came to new, and we're going to create a new shapefile. Now you'll see the command for this is called create feature class, but we are creating a shapefile within this folder. So here's the location of it. Let's go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call this New Canyon Road. Okay, the geometry type, we don't want polygon but polyline. Does it have M? It has Z? No and no. So slope information and elevation information. For our coordinate system, I could select a coordinate system, or if I do the drop down, I can select what my map is, which is UTM zone 12N with the NAD 83 datum. And that's enough information. I'm going to leave the class alias empty, and I'm going to click run. Okay, now once I've run this from the catalog now within external data, you'll see we have this shapefile, New Canyon Road.shape. And once I add this to my map, even though there's nothing there, it's empty. It doesn't have any position or points yet, or segments, I should say. And excuse me, it looks like it was added when we created our feature class. So let me go ahead and remove that first instance, and we just have one instance now over here in our contents pane. So once that's added to the map, I can now come up to the very top and find the Edit tab, and from the Edit tab, the first thing I'm going to do is, once I'm in the Edit tab, I can begin editing, but I need to tell it what I want to edit. So I'm going to click on Create, and the Create Features gives me all of my editable feature classes or shapefiles that have been added to the map. So New Canyon Road is one of these. And when I click on it, you'll notice this first box highlights, which is Create Line Feature. And there's other tools here, such as right angle lines. You can click on that to go perpendicular to your first segment. Split a line, okay, and you can designate a position to split it. Let's just continue to create this line. Now I'm going to make my catalog and create features panes a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to begin to digitize. And with each click, I add a vertice to the map. And if I hold down my middle mouse wheel, I can again move myself. And I can begin digitizing the Ephraim Canyon Road. Now I made a mistake there. I'll come back and move that point. And I'm going to do less detail and increase my speed here just a little bit. More vertices will align better with my road rather than fewer. And you guys can do the same, and you can kind of see the process here. Now, when I'm ready to finish my line, I'm going to double click. So I've done a single click to create my line, and when I'm ready to finish the line, I will just double click. So I'm going to come to right up here at this turn, and we're almost to the top of where this road goes. And I'll bring it down into New Canyon Reservoir where I double click. Okay, so you can now zoom out and see the line that we've created. Now it's currently selected. And if you wanted to create another line, you can snap onto a previous line. If you're ready to edit this vertice, we can come up here to our tools, and here's this Edit Vertices tool. I'm going to click on that, and when I do, I can now select and drag this position back onto our road. Okay, the next thing I can do, let me keep this selected, that I want to show you from our editing features, and I'll let you play around with many of these, but here's one that's kind of fun. So reshape, let's add a fillet. And I'm going to zoom in here to this corner, and it asks us to click on our first segment and our second segment, and now it will create a round through that portion, and I can continue to add fillets through these segments to kind of clean up my data, give it a circular arc, and you can see the amount of time you take to click to add vertices, the better this will look. For sake of time, we've gone a little bit quickly, but I would encourage you to, depending on what you're working on, depending on your needs, to keep it as accurate as you can. Okay, now you'll notice as I've progressed along, we've added some fillets. Let's add a few more up here at the top, where we really start to go around some corners, some different turns. And we'll just try and clean up some of these positions. Okay, we'll call it good with that right there. Once we've worked through our edits and have made any adjustments that we want to make, we can and need to save our edits. While you're on the Edit tab, you're in Edit mode, we'll want to save our edits, and if we were to navigate away, it would say, hey, do you want to save your edits before you go? Yes, let's save our edits. And once we do that, now New Canyon Road has this. This is now added to that file or saved to that file, and you can take this shapefile and drag it into any map now. It's available to you in the folder where we created it here in our catalog. Now we said that we would look at creating shapefiles, which we just did, and again this was a line type. We could create a point type shapefile. Let's go ahead and create a feature class which can only be created within a geodatabase. So here I'm going to go new and create feature class, and you'll see the menu is a little different than what we saw before. Let's fill it in. So we'll give this the name of reservoirs. I'm not going to give it an alias. I want it to be a polygon type. I'm not going to store z values. You go next. If I want to add additional fields to my attribute table, I can. We're going to skip that now. We'll look at that soon. We're going to choose our spatial reference, which we're just going to use our current. Well, let's see, it's by default on state plane. Let's go and find let's make this coordinate system also be UTM. NAD 83, zone 12N. Tolerancing, and we will finish. And now within this geodatabase, I have this feature class called reservoirs. Now the little icon here will look very similar to the icon for a shapefile, except a shapefile will be shaded green and a feature class will be a grayish, whitish, silverish color. This was not by default added to my map, so I'm going to drag it over to my map. I now have reservoirs appearing here, and now I'm ready to edit in much the same way. So from the edit menu, I'm going to click on create. I'm going to select reservoirs. It's showing us our editable layers, and this verse toggle allows me to create a polygon as I click. Okay, and I'm going to come in and zoom into this small reservoir and just designate the boundaries. Remember, to end, you'll do a double click. And you know, as you digitize more, you'll find there's some neat tools. If you're ever digitizing adjacent to another polygon, you'll see there's like a tracing tool so that you can follow the exact edge of what you've digitized before. Okay, so there's a reservoir we've digitized. Let's come over the top here in the canyon. And we will digitize another. So we can come here. And digitize another reservoir. Okay, so we could again continue doing this, and you can kind of see how this process of just drawing on the map. And we've created reservoirs. Now, like before, I can save my edits by coming and clicking save. When I do that, save is now grayed out, and my reservoir feature classes include these 3 reservoirs that we've just digitized. Okay. Now, before we're done, I want to show you one more tool, just as kind of an addition to what we've done. And maybe before we do that, let me backtrack just a little bit. Let's go ahead and practice creating one more, and you choose either feature class or shapefile. I think I'll do a shapefile, and I'm going to put it back here in external data. Let's just practice one more time creating a shapefile. And this shapefile, let's call this one turnoffs. Okay, off of our road, and let's try a point type this time instead of polygon or line. Coordinate system, let's use the current map, and we'll just create that. Okay, and when you create a shapefile, it automatically adds it to your contents for the map. And let's just come and identify any turnoff off of the New Canyon Road. As a specific point. So I'm going to come and create, and I'm going to create turnoffs. And you'll notice how my cursor now is ready to drop a point. I'm just going to look for any of these turnoffs. Here's another little road that takes off from New Canyon Road. and I'm panning with my middle mouse wheel to position this old pipeline route. Okay, here's a road that heads off in another direction, and likewise here's another road. Okay, so now I have these points identifying turn-off locations off of the New Canyon Road, okay, to another road. And you can only imagine how many different things you can create with points. Okay, so I saved those edits. And what I want to do now, again, just kind of to show you something new, let's look for a geoprocessing tool. I'm going to look for points along lines. So generates points along lines, and let's run that tool. And again, geoprocessing tools take existing data and create a new data set by the commands that you give it. So in this case, it's going to create points along a line, and we'll use the line we just digitized, and maybe we'll have it place mile markers, or even stationing every 100 feet, something like that, or quarter mile markers. Maybe we could do that. So again, I'm going to use a geoprocessing tool. As you think about it, the output will always be a feature class when we use geoprocessing tools, and it's going to put it in our geodatabase by default. So let's grab this New Canyon Road, and it's saying, hey, here's what we're going to name this, and we're going to put it in this geodatabase. I could choose a different geodatabase if I create one. Otherwise, I'll leave it as is. Maybe I'll change the name. And maybe I'll just say quarter mile markers. Okay, and it's saying, how do you want these points placed by distance? And I'm going to use a distance of 0.25 and choose a unit of miles. And I'm going to run this. And notice that it's making our mile markers. Let me change the symbology just a little bit. I just want it to be a red dot. Notice that it's positioning for us points along the line based off of the quarter mile, so that we can, say, hey, this road, half mile up, there's a turnoff, and be just after 2 miles before you get to 2 1/4, there's another turnoff. This is just allowing us to divide up our line, okay, based on its length. So we have now just from imagery created data. Hopefully this is useful for you. I think you'll find that you digitize often, and so that you're using these tools quite a bit. I hope what we did makes sense. As always, feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. Thank you.